Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of Starknet Espresso, where we explore the latest developments in the Starknet ecosystem. I'm your host, Uche. Today we are joined by a key figure from Argent, a wallet integral to Starknet, supporting over 70% of its users. With their recent Argent Metal launch in March 2025 and contribution to security and DeFi, Argent is advancing Starknet's growth. Please welcome Antoine Ecosystem Lead at Argent. Welcome, Antoine, to the show. It's such a pleasure to have you with us.
Hi, Uche. Thanks for having me. I know it's becoming a big show, right? So you've had quite a few interesting people here already. So pretty happy to be here with you today.
Yeah, same here. Likewise, happy to have you. Let's just get straight to it. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and your role in Argent?
Yeah, so I'm the ecosystem lead at Argent. I've been with Argent for a bit more than 2 years now. Before that, I've been doing all kinds of stuff. Actually, I have a non-technical background, so I have like more of a business background. And after uni, I did a little bit of consulting. Then I worked for a consumer goods company in Belgium. And then I decided to work in Web3, and as I said, I've been with Argent for 2 years. So what I do at Argent, I'd say is pretty broad. So it's not that easy to define. Every day can be very different, but basically, my main goal is to get to know the Starknet devs and builders ecosystem, as well as possible. So making sure we have good relationships with all the apps, all the devs building on Starknet, making sure they know where to find us when they have issues, when implementing the Argent products, when they want to ask for new features, when they want to ask for partnerships, these kinds of stuff. It's also a little bit of, it's a bit of DevRel. It's also a little bit of, I would say, BD sales, trying also, I like to say, I'm interfacing between Argent itself and then the ecosystem. So bringing new features from Argent to the ecosystem, but also bringing requests from the ecosystem to Argent. And then part of it is also to be representing Argent at events, conferences, and going to Starknet events, but also more broadly like crypto events. And now, there is this new focus of Starknet around Bitcoin. So this is also something that I'm trying to get a bit more of a grasp at the moment. So technically speaking, I used to be a bit more into Ethereum, and now there is this new very exciting Bitcoin roadmap. So also trying to understand Bitcoin a bit more, get to know the Bitcoin community a little bit more as well. So actually today I'm going to the Paris Blockchain Week after this recording, and there I'll be trying to meet some Bitcoin and Bitcoin L2 ecosystem members.
Yeah. Quite interesting, like your role too, and quite interesting what is happening in the ecosystem now. I had the XVAS come on the show recently, and that's all about the buzz that's happening at the moment with regards to Bitcoin integration. So I get the whole hype going on in the ecosystem now. I guess the next question would be, Argent has been at the forefront of wallets on Starknet for, the longest of time. What has the evolution been like from when you guys started and now?
So I think what I like to say, I think now it's a bit, it's not that true anymore, but like maybe a year ago, I like to say that, Starknet 1 year ago had nothing to do with Starknet today, and probably has nothing to do with Starknet in a year, because Starknet is such, it's a very young chain, especially when it comes to, in terms of maturity, because everything is new, right? So ZK rollups are pretty new. It's a dedicated coding language called Cairo. It's a dedicated virtual machine, the Cairo virtual machine. And so, although the Ethereum ecosystem is getting, pretty mature because it's been there for some time, the Starknet ecosystem is much younger. And so it's evolving a lot. And I mean, so Argent was built the first wallet for Starknet. Back then there were no wallets when we arrived on Starknet, so with Argent X. And so everything was missing, right? And I think, yeah, I mean, the chain has been evolving a lot. We now have very strong foundations, I believe. Yeah, I also think still a lot to do, a lot to build. And so Starknet in a year from today is probably going to be very different as well.
Yeah, like just to allude to what you say, I mean, the ecosystem is quite young, which is why I think what you guys have done is remarkable in some sense, because you guys took the gamble at the very, very, what would you say, early stage. So most of the times I ask people, why Starknet, and they're always about the tech, but you guys joined even before the buzz, right? So the question is, why did you guys choose Starknet? Because it seems like you guys took a lot of gamble in integrating Starknet, going with Starknet.
Yeah, I mean, because Argent is a pretty old company when it comes to crypto, right? So it was founded in 2017, 2018. And back then we used to be like the first smart account wallet for retail users on Ethereum layer 1, right? And so I wasn't working for Argent back then, but I know that the founders pretty soon, they realized that there were a few challenges, a few issues with Ethereum layer 1. The first one being scalability. So that's what, I mean, that's a challenge that pretty much everybody agrees with today. So it was not scalable. So like to give an example, typically we used to pay for gas fees for users, right? So that's now something that we do on Starknet again, that is, being popularized again. But back then it was like pretty new. Nobody did this before. And that gives you a great experience. You don't need to care about gas fee. You don't need to have, ETH in your wallets, and you still can, interact with DeFi and everything. And so it was working well, but then at some point, transactions started to cost, like $50, $100, $200. And then from a business perspective, it did not make any sense anymore, right? So there was an issue with scalability. So we had to find a more scalable way, a more scalable, layer to build. And then there was also another big issue for us, which was account abstraction, because Argent is a smart account wallet, right? We really believe that we can improve the UX that you have in blockchain today with smart accounts. But because the whole ecosystem was not built around, smart account, Ethereum was built around EOAs, externally owned accounts. So what I like to call like dumb accounts. These accounts, they cannot do anything, right? So that's typical MetaMask or Rabbi accounts. Because the whole ecosystem is built around them, it's very hard. There is a lot of inertia to have people switch from these EOAs to smart accounts. And so that was also a big friction back then on Ethereum. And then why Starknet? Well, first of all, Starknet indeed, it was a big gamble, a big bet back then to think that Starknet would, be the best solution to scale Ethereum. But I think today, like the numbers really show that Starknet is the best layer of scalability, right? So you have the lowest costs by far compared with other L2s. Also, it's pretty fast. It can still be faster, and I know Starkware is working on this, but it's pretty fast. So on that front, I think, it was a very good decision. Starknet is the most scalable layer 2. But then the other thing is that Starknet, they also made a few big bets. The one bet was being a ZK rollup, because back then ZK rollups, were non-existent. While optimistic rollups were already like in the making. But then also they decided to really optimize for ZK rollups, right? With this new language, Cairo, this new virtual machine. And they also did this big bet of going full, all in on account abstraction. And so on Starknet, you don't have EOAs, you only have smart accounts. That means that you have 100% adoption of smart accounts. And so that's much better for us. So I think these are like the two main reasons when you ask why Starknet: scalability, 100% adoption of smart accounts. And then I guess something else that is still important to us also is like the ethos of the Starkware team and like the Starknet ecosystem, which I think is pretty, close to the Ethereum, values, which is, around, decentralization, permissionlessness, this kind of stuff. I think not all layer twos are as focused as Starknet on this. So Starknet will probably be one of the first layer twos to go fully decentralized. That is, of course, very important as well.
Yeah, I mean, quite interesting what you said. And then it's because I was going to go into the smart account aspect of it. And I think one of the biggest barriers in crypto adoption is wallet usability, because a lot of people, I mean, around here too, people really don't, what would you say, not conversant with that idea of, having private keys and stuff like that. And I think Argent has come up with like a fantastic solution, maybe Starknet in general. How is Argent making usability and adoption easier for users, especially when you consider smart accounts and account abstraction? How is it? How is it going?
So on adoption and smart accounts, so the vision of Argent has always been to become, from the beginning, that was the idea, to become Revolut, but without the bank, right? So have this app that is very easy to use, that has great UX, but also that is self-custodial. Mm-hmm. And we think it's only possible to do this with smart accounts, because it brings, from a UX perspective, a lot of benefits. And so just maybe to explain how smart accounts work in a very simplified way, a smart account it's a smart contract, right? And when you have this smart contract as an account, you can actually decide to have multiple signers with that account. It's a bit like a multi-sig, right? So how the Argent smart accounts work is that by default they have two signers. One of them is the user, and then the other signer is the Argent backend. And when you do this, you can actually, have add, functionality such as 2FA, such as recovery. You can even get rid of seed phrases if you want. And so this really improves the experience by, multiple access, I believe. What is, I think, important there as well is that it's still self-custodial and users have the choice. So you have two signers in your account, but they don't have the same rights. So typically your signer account will have more rights than the what we call the guardian account, the guardian signer. So the guardian or the co-signer has less rights, but you can ask them to help you when you need to do recovery of your account. And if you decide you actually don't want to have this signer anymore in your account, you can also remove it, right? So you're not forced to have these two signers in your account. And I think this is how we improve UX and how we indeed improve adoption of crypto in general.
Yeah, one of the aspects of account abstraction which is tremendous is the idea of using your email to get into the system instead of the conventional way of having your wallet address and stuff like that. And I think for me personally, my what would you say, interaction with people is that it has helped to bring more people. I think most of us don't really understand how difficult it is for. And again, I'm going to emphasize here in Africa and Nigeria, for example, most people don't understand how difficult it is for the idea of, what would you say, private keys and stuff. Like, people are used to using their emails to log into and do stuff. And I think this is one place where I think smart accounts and Argent generally has done a tremendous job in bringing in more users into the system. This is something I find quite remarkable. One other thing that I wanted to point out is social recovery. It's mind blowing because you lose your private key, you lose your seed phrase before it's gone, right? But now you have this new avenue to make things to recover your account. How does it work?
Yeah, I mean, social recovery is really this concept of having this guardian on your account that you can call. You can authenticate with the guardian, which is by default the Argent backend. And as the guardian, so if you have lost your signer, you lost your phone, or you don't have your seed phrase anymore, you authenticate with the guardian, and the guardian can actually trigger a replacement of your signer in your account, right? And so, indeed, I think what it really brings to crypto is that it brings you the ability to make mistakes, because humans make mistakes. But with the system we have in crypto, the one mistake you do, you are just fucked, right? Because if you lose your seed phrase, if your seed phrase leaks somewhere, if someone finds your seed phrase today, I mean, you have big issues. And so, yeah, the Guardian system is really good for that. It's now what we call on-chain recovery, because we realized the like social recovery, like we used to call it on layer one. That was, not used that much. So the idea of social recovery is that you can use Argent as a guardian in your account, but you can also use other people, like people you trust, your family, your friends, and you can add them as additional guardians. And then if you lose your account, go and ask them, help me recover my account. But we realized that actually people were not doing this that much. Most of the time, they were just using as guardians some signers that they would control themselves, so like a ledger key, for example. So now we call this like guardian or on-chain recovery. But yeah, that's the concept. Basically, you identify with this guardian, and they can help you recover your account. There is always what we call a time lock, so there is a delay. So the time lock is by default, I think, 7 days. So for 7 days, you will receive an email that tells you that recovery is happening. If you did not, initiate a recovery yourself, that means you still have access to your main signer. Then you can just interrupt the recovery. You still have control over the account.
Yeah. Oh, great. That I think it's something. The security aspect of it is something I find quite interesting too and remarkable. Which leads me to my next question. Argent is approximately 6 years in Starknet, if I'm not mistaken. Just last year, there was the introduction of reinforced. It was reinforced by blockchain last year. And again, DeFi is growing on Starknet, right? So there's more interactions. There's more interaction within the ecosystem. And what is Argent doing to maintain this level of efficiency, especially with security? And again, I think it's a tremendous feat that for 6 years, there's not been an incident of security breach on Argent. That alone is a milestone. And I think it's quite, what would you say, something good to remarkable. So how is Argent maintaining this level of efficiency and trust within its users?
Yeah, I mean, so in terms of security, I think from the beginning, we've been like, building in the open. So our contracts are all open source. So, anyone will see them, but also use them. So Argent contracts on Starknet are typically used by most centralized exchanges. Some other wallets, big players, they use these contracts. So this is also, a way to add more or to bring more security, because if they decide to use these contracts, they will probably do their own due diligence on them before, or run their own audits, make sure that the contracts are safe. I mean, we've also done so many audits, between the contracts we had back then on Ethereum layer one, the ones we have now on Starknet. At some point you had audits, that's one thing. But then I think, security audits and everything is very important, and having, open source accounts is very important as well. But security is also the security we bring to the users. And it brings us a little bit back to what I was saying around the fact that users can make mistakes, and that's something that can happen. And so, yeah, with Argent, we have additional services such as 2FA, which is also leveraging this guardian concept that we have. So 2FA is a great concept where when you log in into your Argent account from a new browser, you will need this second factor authentication, which is at the moment an email to make sure that you are the person you say you are. So that means that if someone actually gets access to your seed phrase, but they don't have access to your email, they won't be able to drain your account. So that is very important. There is also, that's something that is now happening a bit more in crypto, but we were one of the first companies to do this, is the transaction review, right? So making sure that users, when they want to sign a transaction, they will see in understandable language what they are about to do, right? So they will send tokens to this address, they will interact with that protocol. And I mean, a few years back, that was not happening, right? People would just sign transactions and having no idea what was actually being signed. So that is very important. And then with transaction review also comes fraud monitoring. So we also have that fraud monitoring service, which will tell you if you are interacting with a website that is probably a phishing website, or that will tell you if you are, you think you are making a swap, but actually the tokens that are swapped are being sent to another account. That is also going to tell you that, right? So you will have warnings. Basically, yeah, helping people. So you can make a mistake, you can go on the wrong website, but then your wallet will tell you, okay, this is probably not what you try to do. If this is indeed what you want to do, you can still do it, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is also, very, very important from a security perspective.
Yeah, I think this is one of the most phenomenal improvements lately, because I was having a conversation with my friend lately and we were talking about this aspect of it, right? And it just makes sense that it's available to people, and especially like newbies, like for people that are able to read codes and understand codes very well, and not just reading it, but know how to like investigate websites. It's easy for them, but for someone that is just coming into you have this tool within you that tells you, okay, no, I don't think you should go into this place. It makes things secure, and it builds that trust, especially with using Argent Wallet. So I mean, it's an incredible thing what you guys have done with respect to that. Nice one.
Yeah, because I mean the bad UX makes a lot of wrong to the ecosystem. When you are new, you just you send a few $100 to an account, and then you click on the wrong link on X, and you are just drained, and that's it. And that's the first and only experience you have with crypto. So that's definitely something that is also a big barrier to adoption, the security aspect.
Sure. Recently we've had the biggest buzz in Starknet ecosystem, which is the Bitcoin integration, which one of the things that led me to actually have XVAS come on the show. It's such a massive idea. Even as an idea, it's massive to think that, okay, Starknet is going to be settling Bitcoin and settling Ethereum at the same time. So tremendous feat that we are, interesting times, exciting times. What is Argent doing with respect to this development? Are we seeing any partnerships, any integration like with XVAS, for example, Bitcoin wallets? What are we seeing?
Yes. I cannot disclose everything already, but indeed, I mean, of course, it makes a lot of sense, right? So,
yeah, sure.
Starknet wants to become this hub for Bitcoin holders, basically to bring them value, right? Other than just holding your Bitcoin, you now will be able to use Starknet to actually do stuff with it, right? Interact in DeFi or in Bitcoin Fi, as we call it now. There is all kinds, different kinds of Bitcoiners, from Bitcoin maxi, who doesn't want to do anything with their Bitcoin; they just want to keep it safe. And then there is also, this is all a range of people who actually want to bring, I don't know, make a bit of yield, for example. So that would be a good example. So yeah, we are of course working on some Bitcoin integrations. We really want Argent to be, a very trusted place for people to bring their Bitcoin over, to hold it in a secure way, and then to be able to indeed, engage in DeFi, for example. I think, we haven't discussed the Argent cards yet, but we also see a lot of synergies with the card, which is because the card is like one of the best off-ramping methods you could have. It's very easy. You don't have any intermediaries. You receive very good rates when spending your tokens. And so it would make a lot of sense to have this kind of funnel where people can bridge their Bitcoins to Starknet, and then hold them in their card accounts. But instead of spending the Bitcoin, they actually lend it on Vesu. So they get USDC for the Bitcoin. They don't need to sell the Bitcoin, and then they spend the USDC. So these are the kinds of flows, user experiences that we are thinking about. Yeah.
Oh, great. Because I was going to mention, Niels was on Starknet Espresso recently. Niels is the co-founder of Visu, and one of the things he mentioned was, how DeFi and Starknet wallets, Argent in particular, is synergizing in some sense to, make interaction more user friendly to a large extent.
Yeah.
So I was going to even ask, how has the integration with, DeFi protocol, has it been going on Argent?
Yeah, so as I said, one of the, the vision we have is to become Revolut without the bank. So I think we have, there is different products, right? So there is Argent X, which is the extension, which is maybe used by people who are a bit more, used to DeFi. They go to the protocols, they connect to these protocols, and then they interact with DeFi protocols. But the thing is that DeFi protocols are pretty complex. For most people, it's not that obvious how, I don't know, like impermanent plus works, or how a lending pool works. These are all very, financial, difficult to understand concepts. And so I think this is also one of the barriers that we have today, is that unless you're really deep into it and you have a lot of Argent Mobile, especially, is to make this a bit more easier for users. And we have this concept of one-tap DeFi, right? So stuff that you can do in one tap. And so indeed, we have implemented protocols such as Avicens in the Argent mobile app. We also have implemented or integrated Vesu, of course, but then you just call this lending, right? And so when you are a user, you come to the Argent mobile app, you realize you can actually earn a little bit of yield on your tokens, let's say on even your USDC or your Bitcoin maybe soon. You don't need to go to Vesu itself to try, to have look at all the pools that exist and everything. So we try to simplify this as much as possible, and in just one click, you can earn yield. That's all you need to know. So yeah, I think this is indeed very important. Wallets being kind of a front end to this whole DeFi, back end infrastructure that we could have.
Yeah, great. Let's step away from DeFi a bit and then go into what I consider the main buzz within the Argent ecosystem. Last month, Argent announced the Metal card, Argent Metal card, which is a great utility. To be honest, it is now in the UK and the EU, which is basically most of Europe. And I think the question is what inspired this development?
What led to the development? So, I think it makes a lot of sense to try to bring a bit more like real life use cases to crypto. And like a debit card is like a very, very easy way to do this. You go to a shop and you can just use your crypto that is actually in your self-custodial blockchain accounts to purchase stuff around you. So, I think this makes a lot of sense. It also makes a lot of sense in this vision that we have, that we want to become Revolut without the bank, right? Where you want to offer financial services to people, and having a card is very important. Having some means to pay stuff in real life is very important financial services.
I think one of the most remarkable aspects of this card is the 10% cash back, and then you have the elimination of this extra travel cost on it. So these are like exciting features which I think will attract more people to it. And one other thing I'm looking at is also expansion, because I know you guys are in the major of Europe now and United Kingdom, and I understand that there's a plan to expand to APAC, that's Asian Pacific. What's the biggest vision for Metal Card this year?
Yeah, so this is always very difficult to talk about, like ETAs and hard deadlines. So indeed, we started with Europe and the UK. One of the reasons for that is also that there is this whole supply chain with the cards, which is something a bit new to us, right? Because it's like a physical object that you need to also deliver to people everywhere. And so the more countries you have and the more countries you include to this, the more difficult and the more complex it becomes. And then there is also the production aspect of it, right? Where, you cannot produce hundreds of thousands of cars at once. It would be very expensive. So you need to ramp up little by little, and then make sure that you have demand for the cards you will produce. And so the objective is that we can reach a global scope, global presence as soon as possible. Are we going to be global by the end of the year? I don't know, but that's definitely the objective. So we will include more and more countries as soon as we can.
So one last question on Metal. For me, I understand like when you're in DeFi, like you're trying to do exchanges, the concept of Oracle doing real life, what would you call, exchange for you. So for me on Metal, I think the interesting part of it would be how is it possible to, trade or purchase items in real time with, let's say for Stark, for example. How does it work? How does this operation work in the Metal? Argent Metal.
A bit more into the details of what the Argent card exactly is and how it's different from other cards, crypto cards you could find on the market, right? And I'm pretty convinced that we have today, from a technical perspective, the best solution that is out there. So it's very interesting. The first one is the speed of transaction, because for something, the device that the shop owner is using, the point of sale, really requires like almost instantly that the transaction is good to go, right? And so if you want to have one way of doing things would be that you have your blockchain account, right? And the moment you tap the card, the transactions go through, and then you send your money directly from your account, and you pay basically, or you send the money at the moment where you pay, right? But the issue is that blockchain is made out of blocks, right? And blocks have a block time. And so typically on Ethereum, block time is 12 seconds. And so this would be impossible to do, because then you would need to tap your card to pay. And then, your transaction on chain could take up to 12 seconds, which is way too long. And it just wouldn't work with the card terminals that the shop owners have. On Starknet, it's much better, because I think, the block time is much closer to 2 seconds, but still it's too long. It's not. What some other players do is that they use blockchains with extremely low latency, so very, very fast block times. And so the transactions goes out, and then there is a confirmation sent to the point of sale, and then, the transaction happens. That can work up until the moment you have congestion on the network, right? So if at the same moment you try to pay in a shop with your cards, and then there is an on-chain game that is very popular and thousands of people playing for it, then you have congestion, and your transaction is actually gonna take more than the expected time, which means that then your card just won't work. So it's not good from a UX perspective. The way we solve this is that we decouple the authorization of the card, and then the moment the money is actually gonna leave your Argent account. So what happens is that you can go around with your card for the full day, do, tens of transactions, but then it's only at the end of the day that we will bundle all these transactions together, and that it's gonna be settled. That's the technical word. It's gonna be settled on chain, and there is going to be one transaction sent on chain. And so it's not a big deal if you have congestion, or even if the network is down for a few minutes, you can still use your card. So it's much better from a UX perspective. And that's actually how it works in the traditional financial world, where you don't have the card authorization happening at the same time as the settlement. Settlement happens later on. So that's great, but it also then raises the second challenge with crypto debit cards, which is double spending, because you don't want people to go around for a full day and purchase stuff with their card and then move the tokens out of their wallets before settlement happens, right? And that would be an issue. Someone would have to pay for that. And so here again, there is multiple ways to do this. Some competitors of us, what they do is that you have like a specific account that is tied to the card and that you need to top up. And in that account, you cannot do anything else than just spend crypto for the card. So you cannot use DeFi, or you cannot get the money out of the account before settlement has been done. And so they make sure this way that the money that is in your account is blocked there, and that you won't be able to move it out of the account once you pay with the card. But then it's not really a debit card; it's a bit more like a prepaid card, because you have this account that you need to top up, and the account cannot be used for anything else. And that's not what we want, because from a UX perspective, we want users to be able to deposit crypto in their accounts, and then, I don't know, for example, earn some yields on that crypto up until the moment the crypto is used to pay for for card spendings. And so the way we solve that is that, again, we use these smart accounts and this concept of co-signers and guardians. And so when you go around in a shop, you pay for something, let's say $1,000 purchase, the co-signer is gonna prevent you from spending $1,000 in your Argent account. So these $1,000, they are still in your account up until the settlement happens at the end of the day. But you cannot spend it, or you cannot do anything else with it. But anything else that is still in your account, you can use it in DeFi. You can send it to friends. So it's much more like a debit card and debit account. So I think it's much better. It's like technically speaking, is the best solution that exists out there today. And again, this is thanks to account abstraction.
Yeah. Great. I would say thank you. No. I think it's very, very straightforward. I think everybody would understand it. What I would say is I'm running out of time. I'm almost out of time. So I would say thank you very much for, having to come on the show. Maybe we could have another session where we go into details very well too. Yeah.
Sure. I mean,
thank you, Antoine, for your insights into Argent work. From metal to DeFi and then security. It's been enlightening having this discussion with you. And that concludes today's episode of Starknet Espresso. If you found this valuable, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comment section. I'm still your host, Uche. Join us next time for more from Starknet Ecosystem. Bye.